and welcome to an episode of Historically Marked. I am on the campus of St. Louis University. Locally, it is known as SLU to most residents, students, and faculty and such, but I am in the midtown part of St. Louis, and I'm going to continue this stroll through series, checking out some cool parts of the campus, as in like historical. Now, the school has been around for over 2 centuries. In fact, during the bicentennial in 2018, they put up a few markers about the campus. I'm going to do all this video on the north section of the campus, unfortunately. I may do one in the south campus maybe later on, but it's mostly like the medical part of the campus, if you know what I mean, in the south end, like, which is on the other side of 64. And I'll tell you some cool facts too. SLU is home to many firsts, and it is the oldest university west of the Mississippi River in the United States. Yep, you got that right. And there is also a campus in Madrid, Spain. So you may or may not have known that, but I will go ahead and show you on the screen some of the firsts of SLU. So here we go. So some of the campus can be viewed if you're driving along North Grand. And this is, I'm standing at the corner of Lindell and Grand, and that's the North Grand Theater District. That's where the Fox Theater and Grandel and the St. Louis Symphony are. But I'm gonna go ahead and kind of stroll around and see what awaits me. To start across the road, that building right there is the St. Francis Xavier College Church. It is listed on the National Register of Historic Places, and it was founded in 1841. Yep. And here is just a close-up of this church. Wow. Let's look at all the detail and everything. I mean, all the way to the top. Good Lord, wow. But here is a historical marker right here, and it's about Claude Heighthouse. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. S.J. Claude Heighthouse, who lived from 1898 to 1976, attended St. Louis University and joined the Society of Jesus in 1920. He later earned his PhD from the University of London. Father Heighthouse taught at SLU for several decades. During that time, he founded the University News and conducted research as a classical archaeologist. He is chiefly remembered, however, for a fiery anti-racist sermon delivered to 500 students February 11th, 1944 in College Church. He asked the congregation, "Will you not do something positive right now to make reparation for the suffering which this prejudice has inflicted on millions of your fellow Christians?" SLU officially integrated later that year. Now, I've done research, some more research on Heighthouse, and he is buried in an unmarked grave in Calvary Cemetery here in St. Louis. Now, I don't know why he is buried in an unmarked grave. Maybe it was his wishes, but you know, it's just one of those things you just gotta kind of wonder. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and go into some history of the school. It was originally founded in 1818 by Louis DuBourg, and then originally was known as the St. Louis Academy until 1820, and then it was known as St. Louis College in 1820. And the university was not always here in Midtown. It was actually originally downtown. Now, during the Civil War, this land that I'm stepping in was once the site of Camp Jackson during the Civil War. And then after the Civil War, it was decided to move the campus onto here in this land. And this massive hall right here happens to be DuBourg Hall. It is named after the founder of the university. And there's more history on this historical marker that's just right over there by those gates. All right, so it says DuBourg Hall opened on July 31st, 1888, bringing all of St. Louis University's functions, including living quarters for the Jesuit faculty, under one roof. Stretching along Grand Boulevard for 270 feet, the building originally housed classrooms, a laboratory, chapel, and library. The building features 2-foot thick load-bearing walls, cast iron staircases, a 4-story atrium in the library, and a double-height attic with massive wood trusses. Construction was financed by the sale of SLU's original campus at 9th Street and Washington Boulevard downtown. Originally, the building relied on flickering gaslight for illumination. Architecturally, it was acclaimed in 1881. For light and ventilation, the building cannot be surpassed. All right, I'm going to check this area out. I know the couples hall, or the couples building, is here. And right in front of Gerard Hall is this interesting marker. It was not one of the original markers put up in 2018. It was actually put up here in November 92. But this is known as Walsh Plaza, dedicated in grateful memory to Edward J. Walsh Jr., who lived from 1909 to 91. He was the great-great-great-grandson of Pierre Chateau, one of the founders of the city of St. Louis. Wow. Son of Edward and Winifred Walsh, after whom the former Walsh Stadium and the nearby Walsh Residence Hall are named. Faithful husband, faith-loving brother. He was a Navy commander, auto racer, tireless worker, advocate of Jesuit ideals, our traditions and higher education, our generous benefactor of a multitude of charitable and civic organizations. And this plaza is gratefully dedicated to Eddie Walsh as one of St. Louis University's most beloved graduates, he graduated here in 1933, and faithful charter member of the university's board of trustees from 1967 to his untimely death. Interesting. And by the way, I do not know the significance of these little statues, like that girl on a bicycle over there. So now I'm behind DuBourg Hall, and yes, the building stretches all the way over here. That is the Memorial Library. And now here is another marker, erected in 2018. This one's about a gentleman named Walter Ong, who lived from 1912 to 2003. He entered the Society of Jesus in 1935, receiving his master's degree in English at St. Louis University in 1941 and his PhD at Harvard University in 1955. He remained at SLU as a teacher and prodigious, internationally renowned Renaissance scholar for the next 30 years, publishing hundreds of books, chapters, reviews, articles, and poems. Father Ong tackled important themes such as the impact of writing upon human thought. He was especially interested in media ecology, the interplay of media that surrounds us every day, and he famously argued that different modes of language, oral, written, electronic, shape consciousness. Yeah, I had to agree with him on the last part. Very nice. I'm going to kind of continue over here. That is Clemens Hall, and then over there is Walsh Hall, that one plaque that we just read. And another interesting thing about SLU is they have 3 different museums here. 2 are art museums, and then one museum is the one in front of me. That is the Samuel Couples House. It is noted for its well-detailed architecture, and they do have open tours from Tuesday through Saturday from 11 to 4. Today's Monday, so I'm a little, yeah, I'm not on schedule, but I definitely want to come in here sometime. I just talked to somebody who works on campus, and he says it's definitely worth a tour. There's a lot of interesting stuff in there. I mean, it is a museum. Now, at one time, it was once the student center. Like, there was a bowling alley in there and some other amenities and all that. But then in 1973, it was converted into a museum, which, of course, 50 some years later, it still is today. And it is on the National Register of Historic Places. And about Samuel Couples, he was an entrepreneur. He was one of the richest people in St. Louis. His resume is pretty big, but yeah, this is where he lived. Very interesting, very cool. Now here's another side of the mansion, or the house rather. I never heard it being called a mansion, but yeah, it looks really nice. I mean, this bridge, the grounds, everything. Wow, perfect chill spot, I tell you. Ahead of me that's the John and Lucy Cook Hall, and then over there is the Morrissey Hall. But I'm going to go ahead and continue onward that way. Here is their famous clock tower. It's been here since 1993. I'd say it's a really good meeting point for most students. Okay, so I've reached the west end while going through the mall part of everything, which is like right behind me, that long walkway. So what I'm going to do is turn around, walk upon Lindell, and then go across Grand Avenue and see if there's any more markers. Unfortunately, I did not find that many thus far. And yes, this is a really big campus, so I don't know. I'll have to come check things out. This is Pine Boulevard. So, okay, I'm on the northeast side of campus, and that's the McDonnell Douglas Hall. And I'm looking at the parts of downtown, the skyline, including the arch, and then that's the Moto Museum. And here is an actual statue of St. Louis of France. He lived from 1214 to 1270, and he was the King of France from 1226 until his death. And yes, many things have been named after St. Louis. Obviously, the city St. Louis County, St. Louis University. I could go on, but I thought I'd stop and take a moment and check out this lonely statue. It's on one of those triangle islands. See, there's not even a plaque about it either. That's the biomedical, engineering building. But I thought I'd, yeah, once again, see if there's any more history on him on a plaque or a marker, but yeah, I got nothing. But what I'm gonna do is continue on that way. I see another marker. So here's a marker about Parks College. Now that was in Cahokia, Illinois, which is now Cahokia Heights. But Parks College of Engineering, Aviation and Technology carries the distinction of holding FAA License 1. On August 1st, 1927, Oliver Lafayette Parks opened an aviation college with 5 airplanes and a rented hangar. It was the first federally certified aviation school in the United States. Parks College trained thousands of pilots for the U.S. Army during World War II. Because of his strong relationship with the Jesuits, Oliver Parks offered his school to St. Louis University in 1946. Originally based in Cahokia, Illinois, the college moved to SLU's North Campus in 1997. Parks alumni have been involved in every NASA mission, and the school continues an unsurpassed tradition of research and innovation. All right. Now there's a little piece of trivial information. And here's a little statue. Let's see about... All right, so the gentleman depicted, I thought it was Charles Lindbergh, but it's not. It is actually a gentleman named Elry B. Jeppesen, and it was done by a guy named George Lundeen in 1997. So pretty cool. Okay, now we're at the athletic field. This is Herman Stadium, where the soccer team play. And I forgot to mention that the school's mascot is the Billikens. And in case anybody's wondering about the name, like, I never knew what a Billiken was most of my life. Well, here's a little short version of the story. An early SLU football coach named John R. Bender is said to have been the inspiration for the nickname Billikens. Now, during the 1911 season, according to one version of the story, local sports writers commented that Bender bore an uncanny resemblance to a charm doll called a Billiken, which was at the time a national fad. And then his squad became known as Bender's Billikens, and the name stuck. Okay, that's a little random trivia, but I'm sure most of the people that attend school here probably don't know the origins of that story. But here's another marker. This one's about SLU's soccer dynasty. In the history of men's collegiate soccer, there is no dynasty that rivals the impressive record set by the St. Louis University Billikens. In the 15 seasons between 1959, when the NCAA sponsored the first Division I men's soccer championship tournament, and 1973, the SLU Billikens won 10 men's championships. The team made a record-setting 6 successive appearances in the NCAA championship match and 48 total NCAA tournament appearances. Through 2018, when this marker was put up, the program's alumni include more than 100 professional soccer players, more than 50 All-American players, and 10 U.S. Olympic team players, 3 U.S. World Cup team players, and 2 NFL players. Very impressive. If you ask me, this marker's in kind of an odd location, but really nice view of the stadium. And as you can see, there's some soccer people practicing, or maybe they're just taking a break. And if you want to know what a Billiken looks like, well, here you go. Okay, so according to legend, those who rub its belly will have good luck. Well, I've been promised this thing before, but We'll see how this goes. Okay. That's what it says on the plaque. It was donated by James L. Reed and Francis Skinner Reed. They were, she was a graduate in 39. But this is Drury Plaza, and this big building right here is the Chaifetz Arena. I've been here a few times. I've seen a few concerts here. I've seen Vampire Weekend. I've seen the Smashing Pumpkins. I can't remember who else offhand, but this is where a lot of sports and a lot of major events happen, and of course the commencement exercises and all that. And then that arch you see over there, well, there's two arches. There's a St. Louis arch on top, and then there's the St. Louis University arch. That's the east end right there. So I think that's where I'm going to stop today in doing the stroll video. Oh, look at this. Okay, I want to see about this bell. Okay, ring the bell. Okay, no luck. But anyway, all right, thanks so much for tuning into this episode of a stroll through SLU, or St. Louis University. Hope you learned a few good things, and hope you learned a lot. If you're a student here or alumnus here, tell me what it's like and being a student here. So, all right, I'm Jason in Midtown St. Louis, sign off.